as we go through the aspects of love that you're explaining in your book, Unconditional Love Is, Appreciating Aspects of Life, amongst the many aspects of love you're describing, is one that I'm keen on this, actually, because I put great stock in this particular one. I feel I spend a lot of my life doing this particular thing, and I'd really like to hear what your views are of it. It's service. And giving service to others has a very nice feeling about it. It's a great pleasure, I feel, to give service to people, whether it be one's good deed for the day, or a random act of kindness, or having a career in which one's dealing with people all the time and hopefully giving them a good service. And I was actually in hotel and catering management, so my job, my career was all about giving people a good experience and looking for a good reaction from them. And it's a very, very nice feeling when one gives service to people. And there are so many different ways in which one can do this. And so my whole focus really is service is something that one gives to others. Now, it may be that you've got a broader, you tend to have a very broad perspective on a lot of these qualities, and that's really why I'm interested in particularly hearing what you've got to say about service. So what I'll do is read the 3 paragraphs you've written on this page about service, and let's see if there are things in there that we can pick up. Our daily activity is our service to humanity and the universe. No matter what we undertake in our routine or habits, we're engaging the energy of life. When we choose to use positive thoughts and feelings, we serve a greater purpose and expand the love around us. When we limit our expression through negativity and fear, we serve to ultimately destroy the good within and about us. It is always our choice whether we serve in love. Every thought, feeling and action provides an opportunity to assist in a higher capacity. Focusing on our service to life reminds us of our ability to use universal energy in constructive ways. When we view service as part of our life purpose, we no longer work at life. Instead, we enjoy the fruits of our labor. Unconditional love is service. When we serve the cause of love, we ensure its abundant flow in our individual and collective experience. Well, you're certainly talking about something much broader than I'd been talking about, so I'll hand over to you. You give me your thoughts on this.
It certainly is, again, from my perspective, a much broader universal sense. We tend to focus on service in very descriptive ways, what we think is service or what we've been taught is service. And yet I'd like to talk about service from a bigger picture, bigger perspective, so that we can understand how every moment is a service to life itself, and not just the individual times where we're doing something for another where it makes us feel good, or we think we're doing something that's a service to some institution or entity that somehow makes us feel like we're a part of something. What we're talking about here is the very universal understanding that that which animates our body, that which gives us life, that which causes us to be conscious in this physical realm, comes to us in a very universal, unconditional, free way. So we have energy animating our body, and I would liken to say that that energy can be equated to love. And that energy that flows through us simply wants to express greater love. So we, in a way, are an expression of love with the opportunity to express more love. And it's this animating principle that we can look at more universally to understand how our every activity, or every thought, or every feeling, or every physical action can be, in a way, is supposed to be imbued with this extension of love, this expression of love, this universal flow of energy. We can look at it on a very microcosmic level when we look at our own bodies, when we look at the functioning of the cells, or below the cell level, the atomic structure. There's an animating principle that causes these atoms to come together and create the molecules and create the very chains, the very building blocks that we would know as eventually as cells in our body. So they're all doing unique service in their own way, because without the atoms doing the pieces that they need to do, the cells can't form. We need the cells to work with all the other cells, and each cell having a unique activity that it performs, whether it's part of an organ or part of a blood system or part of something else within our physical body. Each cell has a wisdom that knows how to work with all the cells around it, and it gives of itself, even though its lifetime can be a matter of months. No cell in our body is over a year old. It's being replenished, but in that time period, it's giving of itself for a greater whole, so that we can actually function in our physical bodies without ever having to think about dividing the cell, multiplying the cell doing its activity, the cell nourishing itself, the cell disposing of things. All these functions that allow us the precious opportunity to be physical, to bring our conscious awareness into a life, that's happening because of all this service, all this natural connection with this wisdom that we would recognize, or not, we would recognize as being something that's universally going on, but we wouldn't necessarily stop long enough to contemplate the intelligence and the wisdom and the beauty of this incredible functioning system, to the tune of trillions of cells doing this in great harmony, while we're on about our business. Going into a very cosmic level, we can look out at the stars at night, we can see stars upon stars and galaxies upon galaxies, all flowing and circulating in a very similar way, in great beauty, in great wisdom, great intelligence. They're not crashing into each other. There's extraordinary connection when we look up at the stars, and we know that there's something magnificent going on that's also entailing trillions of stars and billions of galaxies, incomprehensible numbers to our mental mind. We're part of that life, that same life that courses through and causes the cells to have their service, the same cosmic forces that bring service to one another. And particularly we can look at the function of the sun, as it radiates its life-giving properties out into the cosmos. We get the benefit, to have life on our planet because of the life-giving energy coming from the sun. And in turn, we can often see how we respond to that same life-giving essence. The sun radiates and it also magnetizes. We can see the flower that will actually follow the sun over the course of the day because it's attracted to that life-giving essence. There's such a beautiful rhythm going on. There's such a natural interconnectedness going on. There's service by the sun without qualification, without limitation, without expectation. The sun is simply serving, doing what it knows how to do best. So what would happen if we actually take ourselves into that full understanding and realize that every moment that we have breath, every moment we are alive, we are performing a service, a greater service than what we have perhaps typically seen ourselves do. And in this case, looking at the fact that the routines, say getting ready, for our activity in the morning, that routine is more of a habit, and we don't tend to usually place a lot of attention to it. And yet, if we start to recognize that we're simply flowing our love all the time, then we can recognize as we're brushing our teeth, we can have great appreciation and gratitude, like we've spoken of in previous discussions. We can have gratitude for all the elements that allow that to happen, the people that have made the toothbrushes and the toothpaste and the ability to have fresh water, to do these things. In those routines, we can extend our gratitude, our appreciation, our love for all the many experiences that come together in that moment to give us the opportunity to maintain efficiency and harmony and balance in our physicalness. As we go off to what we've typically called work, we tend to look at work as a labor, something we have to do to survive, or something we have to do to somehow either make ends meet or create some semblance of a life. We tend to have a very, very strong cultural definition as to work as something that is not generally look forward to, and is something we have to do in order to have the rest of our functioning life. And yet, just as this animating principle comes into us, this animation that allows us to have life, we can go into what we would formally call our work and change our vocabulary literally to replace the word work with the idea that we are serving the greater good. We're coming into what we would call a job or work environment, and now we're looking at it from the standpoint of saying, we're in service to the greater good. We're in service to all the things that make all the things happen. We are part of something whole and complete. We are part of something greater. And in that instance, we can start to interact then with the tasks that we would have that we're responsible for. And, you know, if in your case, you know, you had the conscious recognition that you were in a service industry, so you had more of a conscious tendency to provide service, to bring a greater joy to those that you were interacting with. There are far fewer of those types of positions than what most would consider either mundane or routine, whether they're clerical or mechanical, or, you know, some other type of, you know, activity that people do that's not necessarily, we may be engaged with customers and clientele, we may not. You know, we may be sequestered off in a cube somewhere, and in some ways feeling disconnected. When we connect ourselves, though, to this greater sense of service, it doesn't matter what our daily activity is. We can realize that we are serving something more, and it changes our entire attitude, it changes our entire perspective, and it allows us to bring more love not only into ourselves, but then into the realm around us, because now, as in service, we can actually be in joy for the opportunity to share our talent, our skill, our ability, our wisdom, our heart, our love. We can share our kindness. We can do this all during the day through our activities. We can actually imbue the very things that we're working with, or perhaps even creating, with a sense of gratitude and joy. And it will literally change the very vibration of those things that we're touching and interacting with. It takes a completely different angle on what we are culturally and socially kind of conditioned in, from the survival mode to recognizing that every moment is a grand moment of service. We're giving from that which we received. We're giving unconditionally, we're giving willingly, we're giving because we've received unconditionally, we've received willingly. And it changes the whole flow. It creates a flow where oftentimes there hasn't been a flow. So we can certainly see in our daily activity that just simply by beginning to reframe, reconsider how we've looked at and viewed things, to opening it up to a greater level of the very fact that we have physical ability and mental, emotional capacity, that we can bring greater love, greater service into all of these moment-to-moment activities. And then when we, you know, come home and retire at night, where we've typically, you know, considered that our, you know, rest and relaxation time, perhaps catching up on more personal things, there too, we can be more conscious of the fact that all of those things, whether we're taking care of our house or our family, you know, taking care of ourselves by nurturing ourselves with some rest time or some relaxation activities, that's a service to ourselves and to those around us, because we're storing balance, we're keeping balance in who we are. So this service idea is really a way to look at a much broader, much more universal recognition of how all of life serves life, and how when we work in harmony, when we serve in harmony, even there the word work still comes forth, you know, so easily. When we serve in harmony, we serve life itself, life in turn serves us. And again, it's this beautiful circular flow of which love serves love. And it provides an opportunity to really move into a greater level of flow with the natural energies that are happening all the time, rather than blocking, limiting, or, you know, placing negative qualities on things that we have resisted or resented that we have to participate in. And certainly our lives in service may very well change, but it moves beyond this idea of performing a random act of kindness because it happens to make us feel good, whether we do that, you know, selfishly or selflessly, to more of like just letting our life be one of service, so that kindness is just a natural expression because it is who we are naturally.
Mm. Well, I've always thought that it would be possible to say to many people that the work that they do is really an act of service, whereas so many people work behind the scenes and really aren't in direct contact with customers and so on, where it's more obviously an act of service. But for to be able to say to people that going to work is actually an act of love is, you know, would be quite a new perspective for everyone, and has a great feeling to it. What I mean, many people would say, I never know what I should be doing with my life. You know, what's the best thing that I can be doing? And I think from what you're saying, it's more a case of developing that love, that unconditional love, as an act of service, or as a service to life, is really the answer to that. So regardless of what one's doing, one can provide a quality of service through unconditional love that would compare with anything that you might think of.
Well, we're always having impact, and I think that's the part that we've become so fragmented in our society, in our mind, in our collective whole, that we don't realize how we have impact all the time. It does not matter where we go, we have impact. Now, that impact can be positive in the sense that we're expressing greater love, greater kindness, greater joy, greater strength, greater courage, or it can be negative in the sense that we walk around in great shame, great guilt, great fear, great anger. And then those lesser qualities that we generically call negative qualities, they tend to destroy. You know, anger begets more anger, and fear begets more fear, and we create physiological chemical reactions in our bodies. We create, you know, obviously more opportunities to express anger and fear and doubt, you know, and they tend to be destructive in nature. If we would simply understand that every moment is a moment of service, every moment is a moment of flowing this love that comes to us naturally anyway, that we would realize that even when we don't see it, we would understand that since it's all interconnected, there's impact. Certainly, you know, as simple as saying that, you know, brushing my teeth in the morning, you know, to think that there was more than one person involved in getting that toothbrush to my bathroom so that I could have that experience in the morning, that there were multiple people that had to do individual pieces in order for that utilitarian object to come into my life to provide, you know, cleaner, healthier teeth, you know, an opportunity to, you know, groom myself in the morning. I mean, there's gratitude in knowing that even though I will never know all the people that were involved in getting that toothbrush to me, there were lots of people involved, and every one of them had impact on my life because they're impacting my life at that moment. So, you know, you might have had greater benefit of response, what you could see when, you know, in the service industry that you were in, you could more readily tell when you were giving, you know, service that others responded to. They would react and share perhaps their own kindness or their own gratitude more readily. There aren't that many people that have that fortune, that can, you know, easily see that. And certainly there are people, because there are not necessarily people living in service, they're not necessarily employers or governments or religions, you know, truly living in service, that there's not necessarily even feedback from our co-servers, you know, formerly known as co-workers, as we're reframing it now, our co-servers, that they may not realize that they're in service. I certainly didn't. You know, when I was very active in the business world prior to this, I didn't recognize my service. I think I had a sense of the fact that I had impact, and is one of the reasons why I chose to, you know, explore more of myself and come to some of the things that I'm doing now, is because I did probably sense that there was something more that I wasn't understanding while I was in that business activity. But certainly, I mean, you know, everything being connected to everything else, by doing nothing more than changing our perspective or changing our intention, changing our understanding to the idea that all of it serves in some way, then we can actually have greater passion and compassion and joy, say, when we are handling the piece of plastic that makes the handle of a toothbrush. knowing that that toothbrush will land in somebody's hand and give them something of great use and great function and make their lives slightly better. You know, if we could handle every piece of paper that we do and everything that we, you know, add our energy to with a greater sense of gratitude and love, greater sense of appreciation and connection, then we really would change the world literally overnight, just by simply understanding that we're part of all. And that's the aspect of service that, you know, it's not enough in my world to say, okay, I'm going to go off and, you know, do a random act because that's, you know, it's going to make me and that other person feel good in a moment. What about all the other moments where we're still interacting with people? We can be kind in the grocery line. We can be kind, you know, in the home, you know, when we're cooking our food. There is no time where we need to turn our service off, and we don't need to be thinking about the fact that we're in service when we're in love. There's not a point where we would say, now I'm in service, now I'm not. When we are at peace with ourselves, when we're self-accepting, when we're accepting of those around us, when we're bringing love into our life, then one just simply goes with the rhythm. One becomes like the cell in the body or the star out in the sky that is a sun that, you know, radiates to an entire galaxy. We simply are service, incarnate, which is our natural state if we understand the natural animating principle that operates us to begin with. We're just an extension of that same opportunity. We've kind of forgotten that, but that's one of the reasons why I chose to include things like service as a way to help us reconnect with the love that's already within us, so that we can express more of that love very practically, very naturally, in great service to life as a way to give back to the life that gives us life. A wonderful circular flow again.
So it is really about giving service to life, isn't it? A being of service to life, and living a life of unconditional love.
To the very best of our ability.
Yeah, for oneself and for others, is a perfect service to life. And
looked at in this broader terms, yes. That's how I wish to share it, because then all these mundane and these like I said, the things we tend to resist and resent, they tend to dissipate or transform or transmute, because we understand that nothing is lost, everything is whole, and there's always impact. You know, whether it's positive or negative. And I would rather flow more positive energy, which is an expansive energy that allows greater expansion of that very same energy.
And developing any of these aspects of love is a service to life.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks very much, Harold.
Pleasure.